بولا کیمرہ میں مائک میں. ہلو ہلو. ہلو ہلو ہلو.
السلام علیکم.
ہلو. وعلیکم السلام.
بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. مریم آ گئی نہیں؟
جی میں یہیں ہوں. میں 1 منٹ انتظار کرنے والی تھی اسٹارٹ کرنے سے پہلے. اسٹارٹ کر لوں؟
No, just wait for the right time.
Okay.
Right? Okay.
All right, I'll start then. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Eid Mubarak. A very warm welcome to all of you to another session of Ask Dr Saleem. In this series, we take your questions, whether it's about Quran, Hadith, Islam in general, and we post them to Dr. Saleem. You can ask your questions in either English or Urdu, but unless requested otherwise, the answers will be given in English. To ask your questions, you can either raise your hand or post them in the chat. And if you'd like to remain anonymous, you can send the questions directly to me in the chat. And the questions will be taken in the order that they are received. Unless we have a long queue, if that happens, the priority will be given to those who have yet to ask questions. And so without any further ado, we can start. Waiting for questions. Okay, we have our first question of the day from Akram Bhatti. Please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
وعلیکم السلام.
Eid Mubarak. I have a question about the Ajle Musamma, about the people. I looked up, it shows that, several places that for the nations and for the people as well, time is prescribed time. But جہاں وہ عیسی علیہ السلام کو خضر کا ذکر ہے، وہاں جو بچے کا ذکر ہے، وہاں پر بچے کو قتل کر دیا، اور وہاں پر وہ ڈیٹیل میں یہ ہے کہ اسے بڑے ہو کے تو خراب آدمی بننا تھا، اس کے پیرنٹس بڑے نیک تھے، تو اگر اس کی ٹائم مقرر متعین تھا تو پھر اس کی لمبی عمر تھی، تو پھر اس کو پہلے کہہ دیا، وہ سمجھ نہیں لگی. اور اسی طرح سے جیسے کوئی بندہ جیسے مرڈر ہو جاتا ہے تو اللہ تعالیٰ کہتا ہے سزا بہت زبردست ہے کہ اس کی اپنی عمر کاٹ دی ہو، تو وہ بھی ہے اگر ٹائم مقرر ہوتا ہے تو پھر یہ اس طرح کیوں ہے؟ یہ سمجھ لگتی ہے، سمجھائیے گا.
آپ نے اردو میں جواب مانگا؟
اردو میں کہتے ہیں، انگلش میں کہتے
جی.
ہیں.
اچھا، تو دیکھیں، یہ جو حضرت موسیٰ کا آپ نے واقعہ بتایا جس میں حضرت خضر نے ایک بچے کی جان لے لی تھی، تو اس کے بارے میں اللہ تعالیٰ کا فیصلہ بھی یہی تھا کہ وہ اسی وقت جان لیں گے جب کہ حضرت خضر نے لی تھی. ایسا نہیں ہے کہ وقت سے پہلے لی تھی، وقت وہی مقرر تھا. یہ ہوا کہ حضرت موسیٰ نے سوال پوچھا، جی کہ آپ نے اتنے چھوٹے بچے کی جان کیوں لی ہے؟ تو اس کے جواب میں انہوں نے کہا کہ اللہ تعالیٰ کی بعض دفعہ حکمت یہ ہوتی ہے کہ بچوں کی جب جان لے لی جاتی ہے بچپن میں، تو اس میں کوئی نہ کوئی مصلحت ہوتی ہے، اور اس خاص کیس میں تو مصلحت یہ تھی کہ بچے نے بڑے ہو کے ایک بہت باغی قسم کا بچہ بننا تھا. تو انہوں نے یہاں پہ جو سارا معاملہ ہے مصلحت کو سمجھانے کے لیے بتایا کہ بعض دفعہ بعض چیزیں ان ایکسپیکٹڈ دنیا میں پیش آتی ہیں، اور لگتا ہے کہ جیسے بہت ظلم ہوا ہے. جیسے ظاہر ہے کہ بچہ جب اس طرح سے دنیا سے چلا جائے تو ایک لگتا ہے نا کہ زیادتی ہوئی ہے. تو وہاں سمجھانا یہ مقصود تھا کہ جو آپ کو اوپر سے زیادتی نظر آ رہی ہے اس کے پیچھے حکمت بڑھ رہی ہے. تو یہ اللہ تعالیٰ نے حکمت سمجھائی ہے. تو آپ اس چیز کو ذہن میں رکھیں کہ جب بھی کسی کی موت آتی ہے، اگر وہ مرڈر سے ہو یا کسی بیماری سے ہو، کسی بھی وجہ سے ہو، وہ اللہ تعالیٰ کے علم میں ہے. تو ایسا نہیں ہے کہ وہ وقت سے پہلے آتی ہے یا وقت کے بعد آتی ہے، اسی وقت پہ آتی ہے. صرف یہ ہے کہ اللہ تعالیٰ کو معلوم ہے کہ وہ کب موت ہوگی، اس کی اسباب کیا ہوں گے، اور کس وجہ سے وہ اس طرح سے پیش آئے گی. تو یہ اللہ کے علم میں موجود ہے. تو یہ بھی کسی بھی لحاظ سے اجل مسمہ کی جو ترکیب ہے اس کے خلاف نہیں ہے.
ڈیٹیل تھی نا کہ بڑا ہونا تھا، اور اس وجہ سے میں کنفیوز ہو گیا کہ بھائی
نہیں، یہ تو صرف ایکسپلین کرنے کا انداز تھا نا. حضرت موسیٰ نے جب پوچھا کہ بھئی آپ نے اوائل عمر میں کیوں جان لے لی، مطلب یہ نہیں تھا کہ آپ نے جلدی لے لی، مطلب یہ تھا کہ اللہ تعالیٰ نے جو آپ کو کہا کہ آپ چھوٹے بچے کی جان لے لیں، تو اس کے بارے میں انہوں نے کہا کہ یہ جان لینے کی وجہ یہ ہے کہ اگر ہم اس کی نہ لیتے تو مستقبل میں پھر ایسا اور ایسا ہوتا.
بہت بہت شکریہ سر، جزاک اللہ خیر.
Thank you very much. Shabnam, please go ahead.
جی تھینک یو سر. مجھے کرنٹ سچویشن پہ ایک کوشچن ہے سر. یہ جو سعودی عرب کے محمد بن سلمان نے ریکمنڈیشن پیش کی تھی کہ چرچ مندر اور مسجد ایک جگہ ہو، اور اس کو تورا اور انجیل اور اس کو قرآن کو کمبائن کر دیا جائے، اور سعودی علماء کے کونسل نے اس کو ریجیکٹ کر دیا ہے. تو سر اس کے بارے میں آپ کے ویوز جاننا چاہ رہی تھی میں، پلیز.
دیکھیے،
جزاک
جزیرہ
اللہ.
نماء عرب کے بارے میں اللہ تعالیٰ کا یہ فیصلہ یہ ہے، اور یہ فیصلہ سے پہلے فلسطین کی سرزمین جو کنعان کا ہے بائبل میں، اس کے لیے بھی یہ تھا کہ یہ علاقے اللہ تعالیٰ نے اپنے لیے خاص کر لیے ہیں. اپنے لیے خاص کرنے کا مطلب کیا ہے؟ اپنی توحید کے لیے اور اپنے دین کے لیے خاص کر لیے ہیں. اس لیے یہاں پہ کسی دوسرے مذہب کی عبادت گاہوں کو بطور ایک عبادت گاہ نہیں بنایا جا سکتا. آپ کسی بھی اور ملک میں تو ایسا کر سکتے ہیں، لیکن خاص طور سے سرزمین عرب جو ہے، جس کو اس کے لیے توحید کے مرکز کے لیے منتخب کیا گیا تھا، وہاں پہ مسجدوں کے علاوہ کوئی پبلک ورشپ پلیس نہیں کنسٹرکٹ ہو سکتی. ہاں، یہ ضرور ہے کہ چونکہ ان کے سفارت کے لوگ ہوتے ہیں یا لوگ وزٹ کرنے آ رہے ہوتے ہیں، تو آپ پریئر پلیس کی طرح یہ کوئی چیز ان کو بنا کے دے سکتے ہیں، لیکن مستقل کوئی مسجد جو ہے یا کوئی مندر ہو یا کوئی ٹیمپل ہو، وہ نہیں بنایا جا سکتا. تو یہ جزیرہ نماء عرب یعنی سرزمین عرب جو ہے، یہ اس کی خاص حیثیت کی وجہ سے ہے. اس کے علاوہ تو ظاہر ہے کہ کسی بھی ملک میں، چاہے وہ مسلمان ملک ہو، چاہے کسی بھی لحاظ سے کیسا بھی ملک ہو، وہاں پہ ایسی کوئی پابندی نہیں ہے. وہ نیشن سٹیٹس ہیں، قومی ریاستیں ہیں، اور ان میں سارا کام ہو سکتا ہے. اور چونکہ جزیرہ نماء عرب کی خاص حیثیت بعض دفعہ سمجھی نہیں گئی ہے، بعض علماء نے ان کو متنبع بھی کیا، لیکن ایم بی ایس جو ہیں وہ اس سلسلے میں چونکہ خاص ایک یوں کہہ لیجیے ریلیجس ریفارم سپری پہ ہیں، تو بہت ساری چیزیں نظر انداز بھی ہو جاتی ہیں. تو یہ خاص چیز جو ہے نظر انداز ہی ہوئی ہے.
سر انکمپلیٹ رہ گیا سر. سر ایک تو اسی میں ایک تو یہ بات ہے کہ مطلب کیا انہیں کمبائن کیا جا سکتا ہے کہ ایک ہی جگہ پر دوسرے کنٹریز میں، ناٹ ان جزیرہ نماء
ہاں
عرب،
ہاں، وہ تو
اور
کیا جا سکتے ہیں.
کیا
دیکھیے،
جا
اگر
سکتا
آپ کوئی اگر بت وغیرہ وہاں نہیں رکھ رہے، صرف ایک کمبائنڈ، بہت ساری یونیورسٹیز میں ایسا ہی ہوتا ہے. آپ برطانیہ میں
ہے؟
چلے جائیں، آپ امریکہ میں چلے جائیں، وہاں پہ پریئر روم ہوتا ہے، اور وہ ایک
رائٹ
کامن پریئر روم ہوتا ہے، تو اس میں کوئی حرج نہیں ہے. آپ اگر وہاں
رائٹ.
آپ نے کوئی بت نہیں رکھا یا کوئی اس طرح کی چیز نہیں رکھی جو شرک کی طرف آپ کو لے کے جائے، تو کوئی حرج نہیں ہے.
اور سر یہ جو قرآن اور بائبل کو اکٹھا کرنے کا جو کانسیپٹ تھا، یہ
نہیں،
کیسا ہے؟ ظاہر
اکٹھے
ہے
سے
یہ
مراد
nothing
کیا
all over.
ہے؟ میرے علم میں تو
جو
ایسی کوئی
مطلب
چیز
ایک ہی
کی
جلد
نہیں آئی.
میں ہو نا، ایک ہی جلد میں ہو،
میں بھی
مطلب
کوئی
ایک
حرج
ہی.
نہیں. اگر ایک ہی جلد میں الگ الگ ہیں اور اوپر لکھا ہوا ہے کہ
جی
یہ قرآن اور تورات اور انجیل کو ہم نے اکٹھا جلد کر لیا ہے، تو کوئی اگر آپ کو معلوم ہے کہ وہ سیپریٹ تو ہیں نا،
جی
یعنی
سر.
سیپریٹ ہوتے ہوئے ان کو اگر آپ نے اکٹھا بائنڈ کر لیا ہے، تو یہ تو اس میں کوئی حرج نہیں ہے، یعنی کوئی اللہ
رائٹ
کے
سر.
حکمت ہے. ہاں.
تھینک یو سر.
Thank you very much. Our next question asks, the companions often said, "O Messenger of Allah, may our parents be sacrificed for you." What was the meaning of this phrase, and what would it be like for us to sacrifice our lives, parents, wives, children, and wealth for Allah and His Messenger? If you could please reply
Right.
back in Urdu.
So this has a very specific and a special background. You see, the companions, the way they had been the
Sorry to cut you off. Could you
Yeah.
please reply back in Urdu?
Okay. تو یہ جو فریز ہمارے صحابہ استعمال کرتے تھے کہ میرے ماں اور باپ آپ کے قربان، تو یہ ایک ادب کا بھی تھا اور لٹرلی ایک جذبے کا اظہار بھی تھا کہ جب ہم پیغمبر صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم کے ساتھ ایک خاص رابطہ رکھتے ہیں، اور یہ معلوم ہے کہ انہوں نے اپنی ذاتی قربانیاں دے کے اپنے اوپر بہت سارے ظلم کو سہ کے ہمیں دین کی دولت سے سرفراز کیا، قرآن مجید ہم تک پہنچایا، تو ایک بہت بڑا احسان ہے کہ انہوں نے اللہ تعالیٰ کی جو ایک ذمہ داری ہے، وہ بہت مشکل ذمہ داری ہے، اس کے اندر بہت ساری مشکلات تھیں. اور آپ ان کی زندگی میں کو پڑھیں، ان کی بیوی کے اوپر آپ دیکھیے کہ زنا کا الزام لگایا گیا، ان پر بہت زیادہ پابندیاں تھیں، تہجد کی نماز ان پہ فرض تھی، روزانہ تہجد ایک لمبی آپ یوں سمجھ لیں کہ اوقات میں پڑھنا. اسی طریقے سے بیویوں کے معاملے میں بھی پابندی تھی، وہ طلاق نہیں دے سکتے تھے. تو ان کے پاس بعض خاص چیزیں تھیں جو پابندی کے طور پہ ان پہ دی گئیں. یہی معاملہ یہ تھا کہ کوئی روزگار وہ نہیں اپنے لیے اختیار کر سکتے تھے، کیونکہ مال فے اور مال غنیمت میں ان کا حصہ تھا. تو کچھ چیزیں ان کے خصوص میں تھیں، اور اس خصوص کے علاوہ کچھ ایسی بھی چیزیں تھیں کہ جو آپ کی طرف سے صادر ہوئیں، اور صحابہ کرام کو اس کی بہت بہت بڑا بینیفٹ ملا. تو یہ ایسے ہی ہے جیسے آپ ادب سے یہ کہیں کہ اللہ تعالیٰ کہ پیغمبر آپ نے ہمارے لیے جو کچھ کیا ہے، اس میں تو یہ بھی حق کم ہے کہ ہماری اپنی جان اور ہمارے ماں باپ کی جان آپ کی قربان ہو. تو یہ عقیدت کا اظہار ہے، محبت کا اظہار ہے، اور یہ محض عقیدت بھی نہیں ہے، بعض اوقات ایسا بھی ہوا کہ آپ کو واقعی یہ کام قربان کرنا پڑا. یعنی اس کا مطلب یہ ہے کہ اگر ہمیں آپ کے پاس آنے کے لیے اپنے والدین کو بھی چھوڑنا پڑے تو ہم اسے گریز نہیں کریں گے، اگر وہ والدین شرک میں ہیں یا مثال کے طور پہ وہ کسی ایسے مذہب پہ ہیں کہ جس کے نتیجے میں ان کو چھوڑنا پڑے گا. تو یہ اس چیز کا اظہار ہے.
Thank you very
اور
much.
آج کل آپ نے سوال کا دوسرا حصہ یہ تھا کہ آج کل کیا ہوگا. تو آج کل ظاہر ہے کہ نبی صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم تو ہمارے سامنے نہیں ہے، یہ تو اصل میں ان کو مخاطب کرنے کا ایک جملہ تھا، اور وہ اس مخاطبت کے لحاظ سے ایک بڑا ادب کا اظہار بھی تھا اس میں.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem. Noor Khan, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Sir, my question is related to epistemology. غامدی صاحب نے اپنی کتاب مقامات میں کچھ آرٹیکلز لکھے ہیں اضطراری علم کے عنوان سے اور علم کی بنیاد کے عنوان سے، تو وہ بھی اس پہ بات کرتے ہیں. مجھے یہ جاننا ہے کہ جو فرسٹ پرنسپلس تھنکنگ ہے، کیا یہ کتنی امپورٹنٹ ہے ایز اے فیلڈ آف نالج، اور پلس ان آرٹیکلس کو پڑھ کے اور کچھ اس کے بارے میں اور پڑھ کے آئی فیل لائک دس از دی موسٹ امپورٹنٹ تھنگ جو کہ ایک انسان کو پتہ ہونی چاہیے ایز اے ٹول، بیکاز اس کے علاوہ یو کین ناٹ ڈسٹنگوش بٹوین واٹ از ٹرو اینڈ واٹ از فالس، اور آپ کے لیے ہر طرح کی انفارمیشن بس ایک جس کو آپ کچھ ریزن کی بیسڈ پہ نہیں بلکہ بیسڈ آن یور فیلنگز آپ اس کو جو ہے نا مطلب ڈسٹنگوش کر رہے ہوگے. پھر اف یو ڈو ناٹ ہیو اینی نالج آف ایپسٹیمولوجی، تو ایک تو آپ مجھے یہ بتائیں کہ جنرلی یہ کتنی امپورٹنٹ ہے، اور پلس اگر یہ امپورٹنٹ ہے اور میری رائے درست ہے تو ہاؤ ٹو اپروچ اٹ. اس کے لیے آپ یعنی ایک انسان کو کیا پڑھنا چاہیے، کیا جو فلسافیکل بحث ہے اس کی ڈیکارٹ نے جو کیا اور کانٹ نے جو کیا ہے، ایرسٹاٹل نے بھی کیا ہے، کیا اس کو پڑھنا پہلے ضروری ہے یا اس کے علاوہ کچھ اور ریسورسز بھی ہیں؟ بیکاز آئی وانٹ ٹو لرن دس فرسٹ اینڈ دین آئی وانٹ ٹو اپلائی اٹ آن مائی ریلیجن، تاکہ مجھے وہ بنیادی مقدمات پتہ ہوں کہ ہم گاڈ پہ کیوں بلیو کرتے ہیں ایٹسیٹرا ایٹسیٹرا. تو پلیز.
تو دیکھیے، پہلی بات تو یہ ہے کہ ڈیکارٹ ہوں یا کانٹ ہوں یا ارسطو ہوں یا افلاطون ہوں یا کوئی بھی فلسفی ہو، اس کو پڑھنا جو ہے یا پڑھ کے قرآن مجید تک آنا کوئی شرط نہیں ہے. فلسفہ آپ کو معلوم ہے ایک انٹائرلی الگ ڈسپلن ہے، اور اس میں ایپسٹمالوجی ایک امپورٹنٹ ڈسپلن، ایک سب ڈسپلن کے طور پہ پڑھایا بھی جاتا ہے اور پڑھا بھی جاتا ہے. غامدی صاحب نے جو بحثیں کی ہیں مقامات کے شروع میں، جیسے اضطراری علم ہے یا علم کی بنیاد ہے، یہ اس کے پس منظر میں تو اصل میں یہ چیز کار فرما ہے کہ جو علم ہمارے پاس اللہ تعالیٰ بائی برتھ دیتے ہیں، جس کو آپ انیٹ گائیڈنس بھی کہتے ہیں، وہ خدا کی طرف سے ودیت کردہ ہے، خارج سے نہیں آیا. یہ پوسٹ ماڈرنزم کی پس منظر میں بحثیں ہیں. پوسٹ ماڈرنزم میں آپ کو پتا ہے کہ یہ کہا جاتا ہے کہ انسان ایک ٹیبولا راسا ہے. اس کا مطلب یہ ہے کہ ایک کلین سلیٹ ہے، اور علم جو ہے اس پہ منعکش ہوتا ہے، مرتب ہوتا ہے، اور خارج سے اثر قبول ہوتا ہے. تو اس پس منظر میں انہوں نے یہ بتایا کہ دیکھیے علم کے کچھ وہ حصے ہیں جو انسان ایکوائر کرتا ہے، اور کچھ وہ حصے ہیں جو اس دنیا میں اللہ تعالیٰ کی طرف سے لے کے آتا ہے، اور اس کو کہتے ہیں اضطراری علم. یہ فرسٹ پرنسپل اس کو آپ کہہ سکتے ہیں، اے پرائیوری ہیں، یہ انسان کے پاس پہلے سے موجود ہیں. اور اس میں سب سے بڑا جو اظہار ہے وہ خیر و شر کا ہے. یعنی moral right and moral wrong جو ہے، it is not that we get to know about it when we come in this world. It is something that we bring in this world with our own selves. اور اسی کو اضطراری علم کہا جاتا ہے کہ you already have this in this world. آپ خیر و شر کے شعور سے باخبر ہیں، چاہے آپ مسلمان ہیں، چاہے آپ کچھ بھی ہیں. اگر آپ انسان ہیں تو انسان کا یہ جوہر ہے کہ وہ اس علم سے خداوند تعالیٰ نے اس کو بہرہ مند کیا ہے. اور اس کی وجہ یہ بتانے کی یہ ہے کہ دین جو اللہ تعالیٰ نے دیا ہے وہ اس کے اوور اینڈ ابو ہے. یعنی اس اضطراری علم کے یا اس علم کے کہ جو بیسکلی ہمیں خداوند تعالیٰ نے دیا بائی برتھ، جس میں ہمارا کانشینس اس کا جج کرتا ہے، اور ہماری جو ٹریٹس ہیں ہم کو وہ بتاتے ہیں. جہاں پہ اس کی حدود ختم ہوتی ہے وہاں پہ اللہ تعالیٰ کی وحی شروع ہوتی ہے. گویا کہ یہ وہ بیس یا فاؤنڈیشن ہے جس کے اوپر مذہب کی تعمیر کی جو عمارت ہے اس کی تعمیر کی گئی ہے. یہ پس منظر ہے. اگر آپ اتنی سی بات جان لیں اور اس کے بعد اگر آپ قرآن کو یا دین کو پڑھنا شروع کریں تو یہ اس کے علاوہ آپ کو کسی فلسفی کو پڑھنے کی ضرورت نہیں. وہ آپ ویسے اپنے شوق سے پڑھیں، ضرور پڑھیں، لیکن ایسا نہیں ہے اٹس اے پری ریکوزٹ ٹو اسٹڈی دا قرآن اور ریلیجن فار دیٹ میٹر.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Mujtaba, please go ahead. Mujtaba, you muted yourself. Mujtaba.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, my question is regarding forex trading. Is there is a zero sum game in forex trading? At somebody's loss, you get profit. Is it halal or haram?
Well, what exactly is, you'll have to educate me first on forex trading. I mean, if it is just a trading of your foreign exchange, which means that you are just buying and selling because of the value of currency changing, there should be no problem with that. I mean, this is how market forces work. It's not just with currency, it works with the goods that you have in the market. They also at times go up and down, and it's not always in the right way. I mean, there's a lot of artificial factors involved, even in normal market goods that we buy. So, I mean, that they have to be addressed separately. But other than that, if this is what forex is, which I've just described you, that you basically gain money out of currency being going up and down, then that should not be any cause of concern. It's perfectly okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, of course.
Mujtaba, we can hear you. Please go ahead. Did you have a follow-up to ask? You're muted again.
Oh.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay, it's not. It's only selling and buying, but I'm asking technically, if somebody sells, so if he loses, if he gets the loss, the other person gets the profit of it. So it's this. This is simple, but
No,
somebody loss is the benefit of
no.
somebody's.
This is
So
there is no problem with this. This is how market value works. So you should not confuse it with with the game of chance normally, in which one person's gain is at the expense of other person's loss. That's an entirely different thing. Those are games of chance. This is not a game of chance. This is basically market forces. They act on the currency at times naturally, at times artificially. So yes, those market forces, they have to be addressed separately. But in itself, there is nothing wrong with forex business.
but somebody's not doing anything. He's just pressing the buttons and all that.
That is, I mean, that is what I was saying when I was referring to the fact that there are a lot of artificial factors involved. But then, of course, it's not just pressing the button. You have to study various charts in which you have to make a call whether the currency is going to go up or going to go down. So there is some intellect also involved. It's not just
Exactly.
random selling and buying.
So it's totally fine.
It is more or less fine. I mean, it cannot be entirely regarded to be fine, but more or less it's okay in current circumstances.
Okay, it's recommended, maybe not recommended, but just fine. Not.
I would not say that it's not recommended. I can say that I mean, it's like stock exchange, and just as stocks are something in which things go up and down, not always naturally, but at times just because a change of regime takes place, we know that this happens. So, I mean, just as these things happen with the stocks, it happens with currency as well. So it should not be a cause of concern. I mean, there's nothing in which you are either deceiving someone or is a means of deceiving your own self. So remember, one thing which is important in religion is that any means of business or any type of business in which there is this chance of deceit or harm, that has to be avoided. So apparently that has been taken care of more or less in forex and in stocks as well.
Okay, the government charges 25% tax on it. If somebody wants to avoid that tax, because as per Islamic law, you can only give 10%, maybe 15%. If somebody does hire a lawyer for that to avoid that tax, is it fine then? Because they are
I
forcefully
mean,
taking 25%
if
from
they are
for.
taking something more than that, remember, this is not something that they are doing because they know that they cannot take anything more than tax. There are a lot of Islamic scholars who have told them that they can charge taxes more than zakat. So it's not just that our own concept of zakat cannot be imposed on them because, as you know, that there is a difference of opinion. So if they're charging more than that, I mean, if the lawyer that you're hiring is not going to do any hanky panky, he's just going to use the law. At times, the law gives you this leverage that if you use it in the proper sense without lying or without doing something which is illegal, then perhaps yes. But again, these are such matters in which you must always consult your own conscience as well, because your conscience will let you know where you're lying and where you're deceiving and where it is okay to do it.
Okay, it's the game of chance, by the way. I have studied a lot. It's a zero-sum game. It's not a win-win situation. But if somebody is having a loss and other person is getting the benefit of it, it's exactly that forex trading. If somebody
I mean,
is
this is what is going on in the market as well. I mean, when you're selling goods, what happens? You're buying and selling them. So if you bought goods, they were placed in the market. Suddenly there was a shortage of certain goods and the prices increased. Similarly, so I mean, in a very similar way, you are gaining something at the expense of someone else. So there's nothing wrong with this. This is how market forces work. They go up and
Oh,
down.
okay, okay. If you are earning for somebody's less, it's fine. That was my question. It's fine because
Yes,
market also works like this.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I said.
Okay, thank you very much.
much. Mushtaba, if you have a follow-up, you can raise your hand again. Shabana, please go ahead.
जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम, थैंक यू सो मच ये सेशन अरेंज करने के लिए, और थैंक यू आप बड़े मुश्किल क्वेश्चंस का क्रिस्पली जवाब देते हैं। तो मेरा सवाल ये है कि मैं अभी 50 इयर्स की हूँ, और शुरू से हम घर में ये रिचुअल या प्रैक्टिस से कि जब हम रोजे नहीं रखते थे पीरियड्स की वजह से, तो हम अपने भाइयों बाबा वगैरह के सामने रोजा पोज करते थे। लेकिन अब मेरी बेटी जो 18 और 20 इयर्स की हुई है, तो वो कहते हैं कि मामा ये तो हम झूठ बोल रहे हैं, हमारा रोजा नहीं है, और हम भाई को कह रहे हैं कि रोजा है। तो मुझे इसमें गाइड करेंगे क्या ठीक अप्रोच है तो ओके करनी चाहिए मुझे और मेरी बेटियों को।
देखिए, पोज करने की एक ज़माने में वजह ये थी कल्चरल कि आप यानी आउट ऑफ रिस्पेक्ट आप कहते थे कि भाई दूसरे को अगर उसके सामने आप ना खाएं या दूसरे को ये तासुर दें। इसी तरह ख़वातीन जब अपने अयाम से गुजर रही होती हैं तो वो तब भी इसी तरह से दे वुड ईट एंड एट सहरी एंड अफ्तार पे वो बैठती थी साथ। तो ये तो ज़ाहिर है हमारा कल्चरल प्रैक्टिस रही है, तो इसको कल्चरली देखना चाहिए। अब ये चीज़ें बहुत ज़्यादा एक्सपोज हो गई हैं, बहुत ज़्यादा एक्सेप्टेबल हो गई हुई हैं, मतलब समझ में आने वाली भी हैं कि अगर किसी ने रोज़ा नहीं रखा उसका वजह कोई भी हो सकती है। वो वजह मेडिकल हो सकती है, वो वजह बायोलॉजिकल हो सकती है, वो वजह चॉइस की भी हो सकती है। तो उसमें हमें इसी जगह रहना चाहिए कि अगर हमने नहीं रखा तो नहीं रखा। तो लेकिन किसी वक्त अगर आउट ऑफ रिस्पेक्ट हम अगर फ़र्ज़ कीजिए किसी रोज़ेदार के सामने नहीं खा रहे, तो ये तो सिर्फ एक तकरीम की चीज़ है और ये बड़ी एक सटल चीज़ है। बाज़ दफ़ा ऐसा भी होता है कि खाना पड़ जाता है, तो इसको किसी हार्ड एंड फास्ट जगह पर नहीं रखना चाहिए, और बेहतर यही है कि जो भी सिचुएशन है उसको फेयर एंड स्क्वायर तरीके से बयान होना चाहिए। अगर आपने नहीं रखा तो दूसरे को मालूम हो जाना चाहिए कि आपने नहीं रखा, और आप उज़र भी बता सकते हैं कोई है तो।
ओके, थैंक यू सो मच, थैंक यू।
Thank you very much. Riaz, please go ahead.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम डॉक्टर।
वालेकुम।
एक दुआ मांगी जाती है हुज़ूर सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम की कंटिन्यूएशन से, जब कोई डिसीज्ड होते हैं तो अल्लाह से दुआ मांगी जाती है कि अल्लाह इसके गुनाह धो दे जैसे सफ़ेद वो है क्या क्या चादर की तरह,
जी।
फिर उसको घर जो है अच्छा दिला दे, फिर उसको बीवी अच्छी दिला दे यहाँ से, तो बीवी या फिर हस्बैंड। अब ये इसकी क्या मतलब विजडम है?
विज़डम ये है कि बहुत सारे लोगों को दुनिया में बुरे शौहर और बुरी बीवियां मिली होती हैं। अपेरेंटली अगर आप कोई आदमी असेस करे कि भाई इससे आइंदा दुनिया में इसको अच्छी बीवी दे दे, अच्छा शौहर दे दे, तो क्या हर्ज है। और जाहिर है कि वो देना ऐसा तो नहीं होगा कि अल्लाह मियां उठा के ज़बरदस्ती दे देंगे, कंसेंट तो लेंगे ही ना। ये तो एक दुआ है कि अगर दुनिया में कोई ऐसा रिश्ता उसका वजूद में आ गया कि जो बीवी और शौहर एक होता है ना ख़ानदान उस तरह से नहीं बना, तो उससे बेहतर बीवी अता कर। और मैं तो इसको भी कहता हूँ कि फ़र्ज़ कीजिए कि आपको अच्छी बीवी भी मिल गई है और आपने अल्लाह ताला से कहा कि भाई इससे भी अच्छी दे दें, तो ये तो आपकी रिक्वेस्ट है कि भाई चूँकि एक कंपेनियनशिप के बगैर इंसान का एक तसव्वुर जो है हमेशा के लिए ज़िंदा रहना और एंजॉय करना वो नामुकम्मल होता है। तो अगर आपको एक अच्छा कंपेनियन अच्छे से अच्छा मिल जाए और दोनों अपने कंसेंट से ही ज़ाहिर एक दूसरे के कंपेनियंस बनेंगे, तो ये तो एक नई ख्वाहिश का इजहार है। और इजहार जो है वो आपकी तरफ से अगर हो भी गया तो फाइनल फैसला तो उन्हीं साहब ने करना है, उन्हीं साहबा ने करना है जो वहाँ पहुँच गई हैं या पहुँच गए हैं।
अच्छा, तो एक ऐसे ही छोटा सा इंस्टेंस हुआ जहाँ पे जो है वो हस्बैंड जो है लड़ पड़े अपने नमाज पढ़ाने वालों से, कह रहे भाई ये इससे अच्छी मेरी बीवी मिल कहाँ सकती है। That's just raised my question.
इससे अच्छे क्या?
इससे अच्छी मुझे बीवी कहाँ मिल सकती थी।
हाँ तो
जी
उनसे कहें
मैं
ठीक है, आप उन पे कायम रहिएगा, लेकिन कोई अगर दुआ दे देता है तो मतलब उसकी मर्जी है दुआ देने वाले की। तो जरूरी तो नहीं है ना कि वो वहां जाके अपनी अच्छी बीवी से दस्तबरदार हो जाएं। बीवी से भी पूछना चाहिए कि वो भी आना चाहती है आपके पास के नहीं, बाय द वे।
थैंक यू।
Thank you very much. Ammar Rasul, please go ahead. Ammar Rasul, you're up next.
जी, अस्सलाम वालेकुम जी।
वालेकुम सलाम।
डॉक्टर साहब, my question is regarding this confusion about destiny, which we are told to believe in, qadar, and also at the same time believe that we have free will. Now I understand how Ghamidi Sahab has put it forward in different discussions. And one thing that he says, which is very beautiful, is कि खुदा अपने इल्म को आपके अमल के ऊपर इम्पोज नहीं करता. Like he knows what you are going to do, but at the same time he does not interfere, or his knowledge does not
Does not drive you।
interfere.
जी हाँ।
Yes. लेकिन मुझे ऐसे फील होता है डॉक्टर साहब, as if especially the incident of Hazrat Khizr in Surah Kahf, in that particular incident, God Almighty is constantly interfering in people's lives based on his knowledge of the future. That's what the whole incident is about. So that to me seems like a confusion. That is God interfering in people's lives based on his knowledge about the future, or is he not?
So see, these are two separate things. I mean, interfering in the lives of people and taking a decision is perfectly okay. That is what he's doing. That is what God is supposed to do. This is another thing. But making you do certain things willfully or intentionally, is something an entirely different story. That he doesn't do. He does not make you an evil person in the sense that he is going to drive you to become an evil person. When you do something evil, it's going to be your own choice. This is a separate thing. But the fact that at times he might give you a short life or a long life, or he might not allow you to maybe go to the office one day, some incident happens. So all these things they are interferences in our lives, but those interferences are always subtle, they are always indirect, and they are never in the sense that, I mean, you are going to follow the dictates of God in the sense that he has driven you in this direction. You will do whatever comes to your mind, and that at times is something which results because of God's planning. And that planning again is something that's not going to affect you in a way that's going to drive you. You are going to drive yourself. But the planning that at times happens is that he stops you from doing certain things. Maybe one day you had to go to the office, and you were struck by fever. You did not go, and there was a chance that had you gone on that day, there could have been a bomb blast, there could have been an accident. So these are things that subtly takes place. They take place at times, and they are part of God's scheme, and they are in no way hindering our intent. Because I tried my best to go out, but there was a fire outside. There were lots of rain outside. I didn't go. So you see, these are indirect obstructions that he causes in order to divert us from at times bigger problems. But it's not that he forces us to do so. These are natural hindrances. So these are outside hindrances, or hindrances created by circumstances, not internally. So I think if you keep them separate, this confusion should not come.
And sir, how are we supposed to know the difference? If I can quickly ask, like let's say for example,
We don't need to. We don't need to. You see, because I know where I am pushed. I know where I am compelled. I know where I cannot do anything. As I gave you this example, I mean, I had to go to the office tomorrow morning, but if it rains so much that my courtyard gets filled up with water and my car does not start, so I mean, I get to know that I tried my best, and somehow it didn't happen. So if I don't go to the office, the consequences will be that my boss or someone who is my superior, and if I tell him that this was the reason that I couldn't come, he's going to surely understand. So you see,
No.
this is
Okay.
this is something that is always going to, I mean, you are going to understand it because, I mean, it was not in your control. Something which is beyond your control is not going to be something about which you are going to be liable for. It's only something that you are in control. For example, you became lazy. I mean, you could have gone to the office, but laziness overcame you, and you didn't go. So that's something else. This is something that you could have controlled, and you chose not to control. So you see, in such cases, it's the matter of what is under your control and what is under not your control. I think that is quite clear to us when we take decisions, and it's quite clear to people whom we are answerable to when we tell them if we could not fulfill a certain commitment. They will know that, yes, this was something that we could not have done.
So can I very quickly
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
ask you just to clarify this further? Let's say, for
Mhm.
example, I had a lifelong dream. I worked all
Mhm.
my life towards, getting to a certain place in life. And
Mhm.
I got really close, and obviously I got really close with God's permission. That's what I believe. That's my personal belief. But
Mhm.
then just at the 11th hour, God
Mhm.
decided to not give me that thing,
Mhm.
not for me to be able to
Yes.
fulfill that dream.
Right.
Now
Right.
I am forced. Sometimes I am confused about this. This is the core of my confusion. Did I not get it because God wants something else for me, or it was not good for me, or did I do something wrong? Did I was I lazy about something? Was I careless about something? How will I know this?
So you see, this is your own analysis. If you look back and analyze, on many occasions, you'd realize that God did not allow it to happen because had it happened, it would have been really terrible for you. And so you were diverted into another direction. And then at times you realize and see that, well, the strategy and the planning that I did for this event to take place it fell short. It shouldn't have been like this. I should have done something else. So you see, it's analysis in hindsight, always analysis in hindsight that gives you a fair idea of what happened. At times, it's a failure of your scheme. At times, it is also the fact that maybe God also wants to tick you off for certain things that you might have done or we might have done, so that He would like us to be more careful in life. So you see, these are all various outcomes, and we can never be 100% outcomes. But hindsight, when we analyze our failures, I mean, that is what failure analysis is. The whole world does this failure analysis. Every time a project fails. And of course, they just rely on the data and they just rely on the fact that what went wrong in their planning. But I think as Muslims and as people who believe in God, and all those who believe in God, they should always analyze in hindsight that the factors which made a particular project or a particular goal unachievable are multifarious. And at times you get to know the precise reason, and at times it becomes a sort of a jumble of things. So whatever, it teaches you a lot. It makes you realize that at times I have to be more careful in future. There are certain things that I have to be more careful about. So it's always a learning experience as well. So failures are learning experiences. Failures, they teach you a lot, and at times 100% analysis, not because of the variables that are involved. So it's like a analysis that you have to keep on doing. Sometimes the analysis is conclusive, and at other times it remains inconclusive. So there's no guarantee of a conclusive analysis. Yes, at times you exactly get to the crux of the problem and you say, oh, this is the mistake I made. At times it's a difficult thing. This happens to every person. It's a global phenomenon.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Rafia Khwaja, please go ahead. And I'd like to remind all the participants to limit their questions to one because we're approaching the halfway point of this session.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Shazad. Dr. Shazad,
Right.
I want to ask you about conscience. Now, we all have a conscience, but each one of us, our conscience is at a different level. Some people, their conscience pricks them a lot on every little thing, and some people, it doesn't. So, मैं आपसे ये पूछ रही हूँ कि should each one not act according to their conscience, because each one of us is answerable to God? But I do notice that different people have a different way of thinking. Some say अच्छा गलती हो गई कोई बात नहीं, और कोई कुछ ऐसे होते हैं जो कहते हैं नहीं गलती क्यों हुई, और and they sort of beat themselves to say कि नहीं क्यों किया. And I sometimes have this tendency of constantly blaming myself, but why did I do it? So what is the best way of handling this?
Well, as I said, it's self-analysis. It is just as we were discussing in the previous question, that analysis of your failures, what was the reason of your failure, what exactly happened, what went wrong. Failure analysis is a very developed science in this world, and you can include how God made things happen or not happen for you for reasons. So I think that if you do that analysis, at times that analysis is quite conclusive. You get to the point of the reason of your failure, and at times it doesn't remain very conclusive. As far as your conscience is concerned, remember, it's not that there are people who have a very sharp conscience and there are people who have a lesser sharp conscience. It's the question of how much you rely on your conscience. The more you rely on your conscience and the more you listen to your conscience, the sharper it will remain. But if you put it into, it falls into disuse. If you don't listen to its voice, then that voice is going to get dimmer and dimmer. And it is at this instance that the conscience of some people does not remain as sharp. And yes, a time comes, a stage is reached in which a person is totally cut off. And that is what the Quran says when it says that the hearts are sealed. Khatmul Qulub, as the Quran says, that in such a situation you have lulled your conscience to sleep to such an extent that I mean it does not say anything to you, and if even if it does, you just don't get the signal because of the fact that you have kept on denying the call of your conscience. So this is like a cause and effect situation. If you don't listen to your conscience, it's going to get weaker and weaker. But if you're going to listen to it, it's going to get stronger and stronger. So that must not be confused with failure or analysis of failure. I mean, these are two separate things.
But
Thank you.
Dr. Salat, can you sometimes overdo it and keep blaming yourselves and not ask just forgiveness and say, okay, ho gayi galti, let me move out?
Of course, I mean this is how human beings are. I mean there are mistakes that take place inadvertently. I mean you're not very. I mean it's not your fault. They're not deliberate. At times they are unintentional. At times there are contingencies that you just cannot handle. At times things are beyond you. So there are so many factors. So yes, a person should always move on in life. He or she should learn from the failures, take responsibility of them, and then of course make this commitment that I'm not going to repeat these mistakes again. So this is how human beings should go on. Otherwise, they'll remain pessimistic. Otherwise, they'll remain in a negative mode, and that's not going to do any good to them.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank
Saleem.
you. Thank you.
Arich, you're up next. Please go ahead.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum.
Dr. Saab, I wanted to ask you, जो हमने नमाजें मिस की होती हैं, the फर्ज नमाज, and we don't know how much we've missed. I mean, there's no certainty, there's no calculation as such. How should we, matlab, what is the best way to cover them up? जैसे कहते हैं कज़ाए उम्री पढ़नी चाहिए और वो उसका क्या तरीका है? And in your opinion, क्या किस तरह से बेस्ट तरीका है कि हम जो है वो कज़ा नमाज़ें अपनी कवर कर सकें?
तो आई थिंक ये जो सबसे मुझे फेयर तरीका लगता है और रिलेटिवली easier as well, वो मैं इसलिए बता रहा हूँ कि we don't have any specific or particular ruling from the Prophet or from the Quran regarding prayers that have been lost in the past. So our scholars have come up with various atonements regarding these missed prayers. And to me, the best one is that you make this intention that the nawafil and the sunnah that you pray, other than your farz, you just make this intention that God, please count them as the missed prayers of my past life. And you don't have to go into more details. You don't have to say that, well, there are so many thousands of prayers missing and let this be the substitute of that prayer. That's not needed, I think. All that you can say is that as long as I'm praying, please count these as my past prayers, and once they finish, because you might not be having the account of that in most cases, just start counting them as my optional prayers, as nafil prayers, once my previous account has been fulfilled. So I think that is the best way to go around.
Okay, can we also maybe just say every day when we offer our prayers 5 times a day, we offer the Fard prayer, and then right after that, we also offer our previous Qada Fard prayer.
Well, of
Is
course,
that also?
that can be done, but that's going to be quite burdensome. You see, you will not be doing this for a couple of prayers. If you plan to do it for the rest of your life, that's going to be really burdensome. And maybe the burden will not show earlier on, but as you move on along in life, you'll feel this as a big burden. So I think it's not very much advisable. The best advice in this case is that you do what is sustainable. And what is sustainable is that whenever you pray, of course, normally besides our farz prayers, we do offer nafils and sunnahs. So all that you can do is, because these are optional in any case, so you can make this intention that God, please count them as a substitute of the prayers that I missed.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We have a few chat questions. We'll take those, and then if we have more time, we'll come back to the raised hands. This one asks, verse 32 of Surah Maryam mentions Harun as brother of Maryam, and similarly, at some other place in the Quran, Imran as her father. While historically, this isn't the situation. If you could kindly please clarify.
So these are two separate Marys. They are not the same. And remember that Ukhta Harun, as the word is a very, very common way to address the Maryam of the tribe that to which Aaron belonged. And of course, they were the Levites, those in charge of the Torah, carrying the Torah. So that is, I mean, when I say these are two separate Mariams, I just mean that they are addressed separately. So Ukhta Harun just means Mary who belonged to the tribe of Aaron, who were the Levites, and who were, of course, as you know, I mean, from the families, the same family. So they are the same women, but they have been addressed in a way that one tells us their origin and the other tells us about the tribe which they belong to.
Thank you very much. The next question asks, is it permissible to keep interacting with your fiancé for a long time in the limits of decency? Moreover, is it sinful to feel attraction while interacting with said fiancé? And then lastly, what is considered as decent in Islamic law? Because many people consider just having a feeling as also indecent and expressing it as well.
So yes, decency is something with which you can interact with your fiancé. And that decency, obviously, I mean, you just cannot classify having feelings for your fiancé as indecency. This is a bit too much, I would say, and this is absolutely incorrect, I would say. You naturally have this tendency for a fiancé, or over a period of time, you may develop it. You don't need to hide that, and of course, it cannot be hidden as well. The only thing is that the norms of gender interaction, they must be followed. For example, you must not let your eyes wander, take undue liberty. You should wear proper clothes, and if you're chatting on the phone or maybe talking to each other, the talk should not be indecent, such that you're cracking jokes or being frank, because once you start entering in that situation, or I mean, entering into that arena, it's always difficult to restrain yourself, and then all sorts of conversations they start happening. Similarly, if you're to meet your fiancé, then it's not advisable that you meet him or her separately, maybe in the presence of, I'm talking about a fiancé in which the nikah has not taken place, because I mean, the word fiancé is used in both cases. However, if the nikah has taken place, then of course she's your wife and he's your husband. So that is an entirely different matter. So I'm specifically talking about fiancés in which this commitment has taken place that yes, we're going to marry, but the marriage is getting delayed or the nikah is getting delayed. So in such situations, of course, if there is an occasion in which you have to meet, because this does happen, then you have to be very careful that, I mean, the Prophet has advised us not to meet separately, because again, this is a precautionary measure. Because when you start meeting separately, then people can start talking about you in a different way. It affects your reputation. It also affects your inner purity. So that's not advisable. Meet in the presence of your parents, or maybe in the presence of friends, or maybe in a cluster meeting, sort of that. So as long as you maintain these norms, it should not be a problem.
Thank you very much. The next question asks, what is meant by wasteful spending? Would spending lavishly on food, drink, and clothing be considered wasteful spending? And if you could please reply.
Yes. Of course. So the word has been used in the Quran. The word for wastefulness is israf.
Again, could you please answer in Urdu?
Okay. सो देखें, इसके लिए जो उर्दू में अरबी में अल्फाज हैं, लफ्ज़ है, वो इसराफ है। इसराफ का मतलब है आप फजूल खर्ची करें। यानी आपको एक जोड़े की ज़रूरत थी या 2 या 3 जोड़ों की ज़रूरत थी, एंड यू एंडेड अप बाइंग 15 clothes, sets of clothes. Yeah, I mean, you just became lavish. You could have eaten from a reasonably good restaurant, and you ate from a restaurant जिसका जो बिल है वो thousands में आना शुरू हो गया, या even for that matter much more. So I think that is what is lavish spending, and the best way to check yourself is your own conscience. Your conscience will tell you where you are lavish. Also, you must know this that sorry, अंग्रेजी में आ गया, उर्दू में आपने पूछा था, तो जो फजूल खर्ची होती है ये इंसान की माली हालत से भी मुताल्लिक होती है। मसलन अगर इलॉन मस्क या बिल गेट्स की जो फजूल खर्ची होगी वो एक एवरेज आदमी की फजूल खर्ची से फ़र्क होगी, क्योंकि उनका वैसे ही उनके पास अल्लाह ताला ने पैसा बहुत दिया हुआ है, तो पैसे के लिहाज से फजूल खर्ची भी चेंज होती है। किसी के लिए हो सकता है एक BMW एक बिल्कुल एक ऑर्डनरी सी चीज़ हो, लेकिन एक आम आदमी के लिए बहुत एक्सपेंसिव हो। तो इट ऑल डिपेंड्स ऑन द फाइनेंशियल सिचुएशन दैट यू आर इन। तो इस वजह से फजूल खर्ची का कोई एक म्यार नहीं है कि तमाम लोग फजूल खर्ची जो है वो उसमें बराबर कर दिए जाएं। आपकी माली हालत के लिहाज से है, लेकिन जैसे मैंने कहा कि आपका जो अपना ज़मीर है वो आपको बता देगा कि कहाँ फजूल खर्ची कर रहे हैं, और उससे बचना चाहिए।
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem. The next question asks, is it against tawakkul if one prays for a specific person for marriage, besides relying completely only on Allah to hand over all the affairs, even the marriage? Some scholars condemn praying for specific persons as it shows that we are teaching Allah what is good for us.
I think this is not at all the case, because we are not teaching Allah, we are requesting Allah. I mean, we're just presenting our heart's desire, our own recommendation that God, make this the person, this is my wish. And obviously God's going to answer or honor your request on his own principles. So it's not that you are dictating God. All that you're doing is you're presenting your own preference. I don't think there's anything wrong with this.
Thank you very much. Also, in regards to cracking jokes, there's a follow-up asking if it's in a casual way for a lighter moment to crack a joke for smiles or laughter. Is that also indecent and prohibited?
Well, I think I would not say it's indecent or prohibited. I would just say that it's like throwing caution to the wind. It's like, I mean, you see, when these things start happening, they don't stay where they are. As you enter into this arena, you end up doing loose talk. And it's not just small talk, it's loose talk. And because you see, jokes and then becoming candid and frank is the essential consequence, that when you start cracking jokes, not that you're going to, I mean, confine yourself to a single joke. I mean, it could gradually increase, and as a result of which, at times things can go very far. But having said that, I would not say that this is an absolutely forbidden thing. All that I can say is it's a precaution that it's good to exercise. But of course, at times it's not possible, especially when the delay is getting unnecessarily long, and the marriage is not taking place and it's being prolonged for various reasons. So again, I would say, ask the person to please, the best judge is your own gut feeling, your own conscience. It tells you where you are exceeding the limit and where you should put on the brakes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem. The next question asks, after the culmination of the institution of prophethood with the demise of the last prophet, peace be upon him, is it possible that divine contact through angels is still possible, as was the case with Maryam alayhi salam? Although Maryam was not a Nabi or Rasul, she came into contact with an angel and spoke to one. Can this situation happen to a present-day person? On this very basis, our Shia people claim that their imams get direct guidance and revelation from God, and in this way they declare them infallible.
So this is something that the Quran has explicitly said, that direct communication from God, palpable direct communication, has ended with the departure of the last prophet. Other than that, for example, getting a brain wave, getting an idea, getting something in your mind that comes, that could be right and wrong, that is something that can always happen. And at times God inspires you something in your mind, but we cannot be certain after the termination of the institution of prophethood whether something that has come in our mind is God inspired or maybe just our own thinking. So this is absolutely a door that has been closed. We just cannot say that angels do communicate or bring the message of God, or as a result of that, someone becomes infallible. So precisely that is the reason why infallibility has just finished with the departure of the last prophet. So only prophets of God were infallible, only they had the status, and their infallibility also, by the way, was confined to religious matters. Otherwise, as human beings, at times they did falter. We know from the Quran, Prophet Moses ended up punching someone and accidentally murdering that person. Prophet Adam, we know that there were instances in which he was told that he should not eat the fruit. He ended up eating the fruit. So these are blemishes that took place. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, we know in Surah Tawbah, he was stopped from forgiving the hypocrites, but he ended up forgiving them in the Battle of Tabuk. So there are instances in which the prophets, as human beings, have faltered. In that case, their infallibility is no longer there. But what makes them infallible is that in matters of religion, whenever they communicate religion to you, God says that I will protect that message from getting messed up. It's going to reach you through these prophets in exactly the same way, very faithful to its contents. But this is just a prerogative of God's prophets. No one else after them has this prerogative.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem. We'll come back to the participants. Please limit yourself to one question. We're short on time. Bisma, please go ahead.
Mariam, I can ask my question later. Let the other people ask. Thank you.
Okay. Saqib Khan, please go ahead.
جی السلام علیکم. سر جواب جو ہے وہ اردو میں درکار ہے. میرا سوال ایمان ابو طالب کے حوالے سے ہے. آپ ایک تو اوور آل جو آپ کی تاریخی تناظر میں انڈرسٹینڈنگ ہے ایمان ابو طالب کے حوالے سے وہ اگر بیان کر دیں. اور دوسرا اس حوالے سے ایک دو دلائل جو دیے جاتے ہیں. ایک تو یہ کہ نبی صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم کے نکاح کا خطبہ انہوں نے پڑھایا تھا, تو اگر وہ مسلمان نہیں تھے اور ایمان نہیں لائے تھے تو ظاہر ہے وہ نکاح کا خطبہ انہوں نے اس میں کیا پڑھا. اور دوسری ایک دلیل یہ دی جاتی ہے کہ ہر موقع پہ دین کے حوالے سے جب نبی صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم پر مشکل وقت آیا تو انہوں نے مدد کی نبی صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم کی. تو ان کی یہ مدد جو تھی وہ کیا دین کی محبت میں تھی یا قبائلی عصبیت کے تناظر میں تھی؟ تو ان دو تین چیزوں پر ذرا روشنی ڈال دیں اور اردو میں جواب کی درخواست ہے. شکریہ سر.
جی دیکھیں, یہ تاریخی جو بحثیں ہیں نا, یہ کبھی بھی فیصل نہیں ہو سکتی. ان کے بارے میں کوئی حتمی معلومات نہیں ہے اور دلچسپی بھی نہیں ہونی چاہیے. جن چیزوں کے بارے میں آپ کو معلومات نہیں ہے ان کے در پہ ہو کے آپ کسی بھی حتمی جگہ پہ نہیں آ سکتے. آپ صرف یہ کہہ سکتے ہیں کہ ہم دعا کرتے ہیں کہ وہ حقیقت کی جستجو میں ایک کے مسافر تھے, وہ ایک حق کی تلاش میں سرگرداں آدمی تھے اور امید ہے کہ وہ بہت قریب پہنچ گئے ہوں گے. دعائی کر سکتے ہیں. اس کے علاوہ یہ جو دلیل دی جاتی ہے کہ اگر انہوں نے نکاح پڑھایا, اول تو یہ بات محل نظر ہے کہ پڑھایا یا نہیں پڑھایا, لیکن فرض کیجئے پڑھا بھی دیا ہو تو نکاح خواہ کے لیے مسلمان ہونا ضروری نہیں ہے. اس کے لیے کوئی پروفیسڈ مسلم ہونا ضروری نہیں ہے. وہ تو ایجاب و قبول کروانا اس لیے ضروری ہے, اور وہ ایجاب و قبول کوئی بھی کر سکتا ہے, اس لیے وہ تو کوئی خاص دلیل نہیں ہے. لیکن میں اس معاملے میں خاموشی اختیار کرتا ہوں, اور میں دعائی کرتا ہوں کہ اللہ تعالیٰ نے ان کو توفیق دی ہوگی. جتنا وہ آگے ہوں گے اتنا آگے ہوں گے, کیونکہ میرے پاس کوئی حتمی معلومات کا ذریعہ نہیں ہے. مختلف قیاس کی چیزیں ہیں, مختلف روایتیں, مختلف واقعات ہیں, ان میں سے کوئی ایسے قطعی واقعات نہیں ہیں کہ جن کی بنیاد پہ میں کوئی رائے قائم کر سکوں. میں تو یہی دعا کر سکتا ہوں کہ انہوں نے اپنے بھانجے کو جب اتنے قریب سے دیکھا ہوگا اور ان کے بارے میں جو کچھ بھی انہوں نے کیا ہوگا, ظاہر ہے وہ بچپن سے وہ واقف ہیں. ان کے دشمن بھی ان کو صادق اور امین کہتے تھے. تو قابل قیاس بات تو یہی ہے کہ وہ سمجھ گئے ہوں گے اور ان کو موقع مل گیا ہوگا. تاہم کچھ وثوق سے نہیں کہا جا سکتا, اور میرا خیال ہے کہ ہمیں یہی رک جانا چاہیے. اس کے آگے ہم صرف قیاس کے گھوڑے ہیں جو دوڑا سکتے ہیں, جو مناسب نہیں ہیں.
شکریہ سر.
Thank you very much. Ammar Rasool, please go ahead.
جی السلام علیکم once again, Dr. Sir.
وعلیکم السلام.
Dr. Sir, my question specifically was about Amruhu Shura Bainahum, that ayat that for the first time from you and other scholars who belong to the same school of thought, this tashri has come forward that it basically this ayat means that God is telling us that democracy is the way for us Muslims as far as form of governance is concerned. So my question is, first of all, those scholars who seem to be more in number, who do not believe that this verse is about democracy. What do they think this verse is about? And secondly, sir, my question is regarding the overall history of Islamic governance. Like, for example, obviously it was in God's knowledge that democracy will not take root in the Muslim world. It still hasn't. And also at the same time, in the Quran, he tells us to follow our rulers, whoever they might be. Like, for example, where it says that we should follow the Prophet and God, like Atiura, Atiullah, and Atiur Rasul. In the same vein, it tells us to follow our rulers, whoever they might be. And so indirectly, it is telling us to follow whoever is in power, whether they come in through legal means or illegal means, through constitutional means or unconstitutional means. So then the first order or decree is being nullified indirectly. Like, there is no repercussion. There is no, if a ruler comes in through the back door, there is no repercussion for him or for the people who are then ordered to follow him. So this is the question. Thank you.
You see, this is a question of understanding a text of the Quran. For example, if I play the devil's advocate, if, for example, they genuinely understood that Islam does not talk about consulting people and basically it's a nomination and a ruler has the right to veto, and they saw the whole caliphate from, let's say, Abu Bakr to Sultan Abdul Hamid, the last caliph of the Ottoman Empire, and they have these 14 centuries bearing witness to them that this is how things work, that there was a caliphate, there was a person who was a dictator, who was a monarch, and this started off in their view right with the time of Abu Bakr, because to them he was also nominated. So it all depends on their understanding. If this is their understanding, and what can I say? So remember, the Almighty does not drive people to understand what He thinks the truth is of a particular verse. He has revealed the Quran. He has left its interpretation to people. So remember, as far as our accountability is concerned, it's going to be on the basis of what we sincerely understood, even if we understood wrongly. So did we act upon what we understood? That is what's important. But more often than that, or more important than that, in fact, is that did we exercise enough intellect? Did we give it enough weight, or we just be following the majority? So I think this is a situation in which it's not just the case with democracy. I can cite you numerous other verses in the Quran which, because of certain misinterpretations, have led to an entirely different understanding and interpretation of a lot of things which are, to my understanding, contrary to what Islam is. So this is what the norm is. I mean, God has given us the text of the Quran and has given us the leverage and the wherewithal and the rules of how to interpret a text. But of course, people might end up doing it wrongly. So as long as they are not insincere, as long as they are not deliberately faltering, their understanding is still respectable for all of us. And indeed, I think God will also maybe give them a due concession. So that is how we have to understand. And as far as the first part of your question is concerned, as I said, I mean, you see, what happens is then when they see something happening in history, and then there is a Quranic verse also, which so to speak gives us this understanding that perhaps the ruler of the Muslims has a carte blanche, he or she has a final veto vote. So there's this verse, I think, which I referred to earlier as well in one of our conversations, which is in Surah Al Imran, which says, "Washawirhum fil amr." The Prophet is being addressed and said that you can consult these people. Faiza azamta fatawakkal Allah. But once you reach a conclusion, whether it's according to the majority or not according to the majority, tawakkal Allah, you just put your trust in God and do what you understand to be the best. So they think that this is what the Quran is telling us, that a person who is the ruler of the Muslims is the one who is required to take the decision. Yes, he is required to consult, because the verse says, "Shawirhum fil amr," that you consult them. But it never says that you are bound by their consultation. So that is what the majority has normally seen. And more than that, as I said, right after the Prophet's demise, until 1924, I mean, this is a long period of history in which they saw that this is how the Khilafat Rashida, the Ottomans, before them, the Abbasids, the Umayyads, they were all kings, they were all monarchs. And what do monarchs do? They have ultimate power. They can veto any ruling. So this is how they understood. So it all depends how you understand. I mean, you have to give this leverage to every single person. As I said, it's not just a question of democracy or shura. It's virtually the same case in every verse of the Quran. I can cite you examples in which people have derived tasawwuf or wahdatul wujud from the Quran. They have derived communism from the Quran. They have derived the lack of abolition of slavery from the Quran. I think in this regard, it is one of the most understood as well as misunderstood books. So what can be done to stop them, except the fact that what the true understanding is, that should be presented with all its arguments, with all its reasoning, in the best possible way, and invite other people that they should not have a bias towards a particular understanding, not because some of their imam or because some of their senior authority has a particular opinion that you should follow it, but you should follow. If you have contesting opinions before you, then weigh the reasoning behind each contesting opinion and then form an opinion. So this is what we call academic learning. What we Muslims at the moment suffer is from this ailment, which is called intellectual stagnation, lack of academic learning, blind following. So I think if this is addressed, then there should not be a problem if people have different views and they lead their lives according to these different views. But at the same time, when they reject a view, it's not because of some, because the majority is against it, but because they think that the reason that has been offered in its support no longer holds, and they have now come to understand that different opinion is more reasonable, is more logical. So if this academic learning, I would say, or this academic approach is adopted in our Muslim Ummah, I think a lot will improve. But unfortunately, I don't see any hope or light at the moment that this academic approach can be imbibed very soon.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem. We're out of time for this session. We still have a couple of questions. We can either take them today or we can take them tomorrow during the textual study of the Quran.
We can have 5 more minutes. How you need to take and as many questions as you can in the next 5 minutes.
Okay. This one asks, what should be our belief towards the istawa ala al-arsh and the asma wa sifat of Allah?
Again, you see, if you know proper language, linguistics, and how language works, you will always know that istawa al-arsh does not mean that he literally sat down on his throne. It just is it's a metaphor telling us that he is governing. He's still governing the universe. He's not just made it and handed over to his deputies, which was the case when the mushrikun or the idolaters, they would worship these deities. They thought that God has handed over certain parts of it, his administration or parts of his empire, to certain other people, and he himself is no longer relevant. So to them it was said that he has created this world, khalaqa as-samawati wal ard, summa istawa ala al-arsh, and then he sat on the throne, not literally sat on the throne, but he's still governing it. He's not created and then gone aloof or just handed his empire over. He created it and he's still in charge of it. So that is what is actually meant by istawa al-arsh. And what was the second part?
Asma wa sifat of Allah.
So asma sifat, what is the difficulty in them? If he's ar-Rahman, if he is Rahim, if he is al-Jabbar, if he is Quddus, so these are common Arabic words, and they tell us what exactly God is. So in fact, these attributes of God, they are the best introduction to God. They tell us, because we know what ar-Rahman means, we know what ar-Rahim means, we know what al-Aziz means. So these are Arabic words that are well known to us.
They're asking about like his features, like having hands or feet or face.
There's no such thing as having hands and feet mentioned in the Quran in a literal sense. Fasamma wajhullah, aynama tuwallu fasamma wajhullah means that wherever you turn, you'll find the face of God. It's not speaking literally. It's just telling us that he's omnipresent. Wherever you are, you'll find him there. It's not wajhullah. Wajhullah does not, the word wajh actually means the face. But here it does not actually refer to the face. It just refers to the fact that he is ever present. Wherever you will turn to, he'll be there. Similarly, yadullahi maghlula, that his hands are tied. This is a metaphor for the fact that the Jews would say that he's a stingy person and he just gives to whomsoever he likes. So God says, that bal yadahu mabsutatan, that his hands are they are not tied. He has his own will to implement himself. So if you take each of these examples, you'll get to know that it's just a question of understanding the language in its proper perspective. And in no place does it refer to the hands or feet or the face of God in the literal sense.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem. That was all the time that we had today for questions. Inshallah, we'll take more non-topic related questions towards the end of tomorrow's session, the last few minutes of textual study of the Quran, or you can wait until our next Islam Study Circle series, or the next Ask Dr. Saleem, which is the first of each month's Saturday. So with that, inshallah, see you all during textual study of the Quran tomorrow. And thank you very much, Dr. Saleem, for giving us the time and answering our questions. And thanks to all the participants for coming through and asking questions. Inshallah, see you all soon. Assalamu alaikum.